The greatest threat to Sparta was its internal enemies, the so-called Helots. Sparta was 90% Helots. They had lived in the valley before the Spartans, had been subjugated despite their superior numbers, and now led a life as serf farmers, men-at-arms, and ass-boys. The Peloponnesian War began with the rivalry of Sparta and Athens. Around 500 BC, Sparta was the largest military power in Greece. With the founding of the Attic Sea League, Athens now had the strongest naval power on the coasts of Greece and the Aegean. The strength of the Attic Sea League consisted of an alliance with other polis, coasts and island cities, as well as the concentration of financial resources and naval capacity under Athens. The beginning of the Peloponnesian Wars took place between 457 and 445 BC and was just the start of further conflicts between the alliance members on the Greek mainland. At that time, the city of Megaris seceded from the Peloponnesian League and joined the Attic Sea League. At the same time, Thebes wanted to start a war against Phocis. It was about the sanctuary of Delphi, but Phocis was a member of the Attic Sea League at the time. So Thebes joined the Peloponnesian League to start a war with Phocis and had Sparta as an ally. The fighting was rarely particularly big, but rather like between allies. The approach was tactical. It was rare for two land armies with over 5,000 fighters each to meet. Most battles generally took place at sea. On the one hand, Athens feared the Spartan phalanx. But Sparta had nothing to report on the sea. On the other hand, the warring parties knew each other's battle strategies particularly well and had detailed local knowledge. This often led to guerrilla fighting. Individual great heroes went out, set fire to bales of hay, and burned down an entire village. The Second Holy War took place in 449 BC. As part of this, the Spartans undertook an expedition against Phocis, seized the Delphic sanctuary, and handed it over to the Delphics. As a result, the Phocians lost control of the sanctuary. Delphi became independent again. As early as 448 BC. Soon after the departure of the Spartans, an Attic army led by Pericles rushed to Phocis, conquered Delphi, and restored the Phocian possession of the temple. After the three known major battles between Athens and Boeotia in the course of the 12 Years' War, the Second Peloponnesian War broke out from 431 to 404 BC. The Second Peloponnesian War followed in 431 BC. The decisive war between Athens and Sparta. Against Athens' desire for hegemony, Sparta proclaimed the freedom and independence of all Greeks. The democracy of Athens stood for the oppression of its allies, and the military state of Sparta stood for freedom. The war lasted almost 30 years, and there were many war horrors. Thucydides reports on the decline of morals. The Athenians entrenched themselves behind their walls, and the Spartan army was unable to take Athens given the state of siege technology at the time. The Athenians built a long wall, a connection from the city of Athens to the coastal port, to protect their fleet. This created a stalemate. So the Spartans stood in front of the Athenian walls with their pointed sticks and wanted to fight with the Athenians, but they didn't want to and stayed behind their walls. The Athenians had a different way of fighting the Spartans, with whitesmithing and expanding power. So the war dragged on with prisoner exchanges and power games. Since the capture of Athens was not possible for the Spartiates, they began operations in Thrace and Macedonia to expand their sphere of influence and gain new allies. The Battle of Delion took place during the Peloponnesian War in 424 BC. In it, the Athenians and the Boeotians faced each other. The Athenians attacked the Boeotian army and, despite the uphill approach, managed to push back the Boeotians' left wing with their traditionally stronger right wing. The able-bodied population of Thespiae was almost completely destroyed. When the hoplites of the Athenian right wing, who already saw themselves victorious, saw fresh enemy cavalry arriving and entering the fray, they lost their courage. The strain of the uphill storm, the ensuing battle, and the hopes of tangible victory and the end of the battle did not allow for renewed strain. The Boeotians pursued the Athenians until sunset. The fugitives managed to escape to their fortified camp in Delion, but the Boeotians informed them that they viewed the temple grounds as a holy place that the Athenians had to leave. The Athenians replied that they had won the place with the right of the conqueror, that it was now sacred to them, and that they were only acting in self-defense. They faced each other like this for 2 weeks, but in the meantime the Boeotians received reinforcements from 2,000 Corinthian hoplites. According to Thucydides, the Corinthians then set the Athenians' position on fire with a type of flamethrower. The Athenian offensive efforts failed, as did the Sicily campaign, when they lost 5,000 hoplites and 30,000 rowers there. There were numerous battles, with the Athenians avoiding open land battle and operating with their superior fleet. The Spartans worked steadily to expand their fleet and received unexpected support from Persia. The Persians conducted negotiations with the Spartiates. Finally, in 410 BC, both parties agreed to a draft treaty. The Spartans ceded the coastal territories in Asia Minor in exchange for Persian tribute and a fleet. The balance of power changed when Sparta, with the help of the Persians, set up its own fleet and defeated the Athenians, first at sea and then finally conquering the city of Athens. In 404 BC, the war ended with a complete defeat for the Athenians, who had to accept the peace conditions dictated by Sparta. The Attic Sea League was thus dissolved. However, Sparta also used this peace as a tool to assert its hegemonic position in Greece by interpreting the autonomy clause in such a way that any merger of polis into a league was prohibited. Not only was the revival of the Attic League impossible, but the Boeotian League was also to be dissolved, as was the Chalcidic League in northern Greece. The expansion efforts of the Chalcidic League under the leadership of Olynthus were crushed by Sparta, and the league was dissolved. Sparta successfully demonstrated its power one last time under King Agesilaus II, before resistance from the Boeotian League under Thebes put an end to its hegemony shortly afterwards. Over time, further conflict broke out on the Greek mainland. In 410 BC, Thebes concluded an alliance with Sparta. When the 30 tyrants ruled in Athens after the overthrow of democracy, Athenian refugees gathered primarily in Thebes. This changed when Thebes began the Corinthian War against Sparta in 395 BC in alliance with Corinth and Argos, but its coalition was defeated in 394 BC. The war dragged on until 386 and ended in a royal peace brought about by the Persian king. When the Thebans did not accept the general peace in 371 BC because the Spartans demanded the dissolution of the Boeotian League, the Theban War began, in which Thebes, under the leadership of Epaminondas, won hegemony in Greece in the Battle of Leuctra. It also overthrew Sparta's power in the Peloponnese, with Epaminondas founding the Arcadian League and restoring Messenia's independence. It even sought naval control in order to oust Athens from this position of power. In the Battle of Leuctra in 371 BC, the Thebans under their general Epaminondas defeated the Spartans, who subsequently lost the hegemony they had over Greece since the Peloponnesian War. The Thebans used the skewed order of battle for the first time at Leuctra. In doing so, they caused the first defeat in an open field battle for the Sparta army, which had previously been considered invincible, and won the Boeotian War. After the armies had lined up at Leuctra, the Spartan peltasts and skirmishers opened the battle. A battle then developed between the Spartan cavalry and the Boeotian riders. Cleombrotus had placed the Spartan horsemen in front of him. As was to be expected, the Spartan cavalry was pushed from the field, but as it moved through the narrow streets between the Spartan divisions, the phalanx was thrown into disarray and the flanking movement that had begun could not be completed. The Theban phalanx proceeded according to plan, holding back the right wing in a staggered manner, while the deep column on the left inevitably encountered the Spartan right wing and defeated it. In the clash, 2 Spartan detachments with a total of 1,000 men were almost completely destroyed. King Cleombrotus, his deputies, and 400 Spartiates fell. When the rest of the Spartan army saw that the right wing had been defeated, they left the field to the Thebans. Epaminondas refrained from pursuing the defeated enemy. The Battle of Leuctra is the first battle for which the use of the leaning order of battle is documented. The crooked order of battle is still considered a fine art of tactics today. Through the organic connection of the cavalry with the hoplites on both wings, Epaminondas is also considered the founder of the tactical principle of combined arms combat in Europe. Now Athens went over to Sparta's side, which, although it could not prevent the Boeotian League's military operations in the Peloponnese, could seriously affect them. After Epaminondas' death in 362 BC, Thebes' power, which had only risen to such heights through the genius of its two greatest statesmen, fell again. Nevertheless, the alliance around Thebes remained the strongest power in Greece and continued to pursue an aggressive regulatory policy. At Thebes' instigation, the community-authored landscape of Phocis was sentenced to a heavy fine by the Amphictyon court for violating the Delphic temple area. This provoked the Third Holy War. The old tribal hatred of the Thessalians and the newly aroused hatred of the Thebans against the mountain people of the Phocians. In the run-up to the war, the Amphictyons imposed a heavy fine on the Phocians. They were to be punished for, according to the Thebans' accusations, using part of the area of the former city of Kira, which had already been destroyed in the First Holy War, for agriculture. The development of this sacred area of land was punishable, but the Phocians ignored this. The amount of the fine imposed also appeared to exceed their financial resources. Then the distinguished Phocian Philomelos, son of Theodemos, appeared. After explaining the impossibility of raising the sum of the fine, he advised his compatriots to take possession of the treasures of the Delphic temple, since the sanctuary actually belonged to the Phocians. This proposal fell on fertile ground, and the Phocians, under Philomelos' command, occupied Delphi, stole the treasure of the sanctuary, and later even had it melted down. Because of the occupation of Delphi, the Amphictyons declared holy war in 356 BC. Philomelos won the support of the Spartan king Archidamos III. Athens was also an ally of the Phocians. On the opposing side were not only the Thebans and Thessalians, but also the Perhabers, Dorians, and other Greek peoples. The Macedonian king Philip II moved to Thessaly around this time and attacked the tyrant Lycophron of Pherae, who then turned to the Phocians for support. Phalus, a brother of Anamarchus, came to Lycophron's aid with 7,000 men, but was defeated by the Macedonian king, Philip II. Now Anamarchos himself intervened in Thessaly with a powerful army, defeated the Macedonian king in 2 battles, and forced him to retreat. In 352 BC, Anamarchos marched to Thessaly with 20,000 infantry and 500 cavalry to once again provide military support to Lycophron of Pherae, as Philip II attacked Lycophron for the second time in conjunction with strong Thessalian noble troops. The Macedonian king defeated the Phocians in the decisive battle on the Crocus field. Anamarchos and many of his warriors fell. As punishment, Philip II had 3,000 prisoners thrown into the sea as temple robbers. Since the Phocians occupied the Boeotian cities and from there devastated the surrounding area, the Thebans, who were now exhausted and could not recapture the cities mentioned, called King Philip II to help. This final phase of the war began with Phylakos regaining supreme command at the beginning of 346 BC. He torpedoed the connections that the Phocians had established with Athens and Sparta. So he rejected the Spartan king Archidamos III, who came to his aid, and the Athenians also ultimately refused their help. Philip II appeared at Thermopylae, and Phylakos met him with 8,000 men at Nicaea. But since he noticed the superiority of the Macedonian forces, Phylakos did not engage in battle, but concluded a treaty with Philip II, according to which he and his mercenaries were given free departure. So Philip II became master of Phocis without a fight. And so the Phocians were expelled from the Delphic temple and the League of the Amphictyons. Philip II was able to establish his supremacy in northern and central Greece through his interaction in the Third Holy War. His image in the Greek world improved significantly. While Philip II was considered a barbarian before the war, his self-image changed after the Peace of Philocrates. Since he had received the 2 votes of the Phocians who had been excluded from the Amphictyon Council, he was now a legitimate member of this body. From this point on, he presided over the Panhellenic Games. From now on, Macedonians were also allowed to take part in the games, which was previously not possible because they were not recognized as full Greeks. Through this symbolic act of recognition, Philip managed to bring more allies to his side. Philip II now began to expand outside of Greece by besieging Byzantium in Asia Minor. In doing so, he endangered Athens' grain supply, so Athens declared war on Macedonia. In August 338 BC, Philip II and his army destroyed the allied Greek armies of Thebes, Athens, and other city-states, meaning that Macedonia now also occupied an important position in central Greece. The Peloponnesian War between the Attic Sea League led by Athens and the Peloponnesian League led by Sparta lasted from 431 BC to 404 BC and ended with the victory of the Spartans, who now wanted to dissolve all Greek leagues and were challenged a short time later by the Boeotian League under Thebes. Epaminondas was born in 371 BC. Appointed Boeotarch in 500 BC and sent with other Theban deputies to a peace congress in Sparta. Here he represented Thebes' claims to rule over the other Boeotian cities with unbending determination. When the Spartans, led by King Cleombrotus I, invaded with 10,000 Spartan hoplites, it came to an end in 371 BC. BC to the battle on the plain of Leuctra. The Theban army, which had previously been completely reformed by Gorgidas, confronted the Spartans under the command of Epaminondas. The Theban forces numbered 7,000 hoplites. His friend Pelopidas and his holy band also played a major role in this battle. Epaminondas was the first to use the skewed order of battle here, which represented a kind of continuous reserve. This enabled him to defeat the Spartans. This was the first defeat for a Spartan army in a field battle and also the beginning of the decline of Sparta's hegemony. 400 of 700 full citizens of Sparta lost their lives in this battle. The always relatively small population of the Spartan freemen, who had always formed the elite and the backbone of the Spartan state, had been significantly weakened by the war. Increasingly, unfree auxiliary troops had to support the Spartan troops already during the war, which led to the Spartans becoming more dependent on the subjugated Helots. After the armies had lined up at Leuctra, the Spartan peltasts and skirmishers opened the battle. A battle then developed between the Spartan cavalry and the Boeotian riders. Cleombrotus had placed the Spartan horsemen in front of him. As was to be expected, the Spartan cavalry was pushed from the field, but as it moved through the narrow streets between the Spartan divisions, the phalanx was thrown into disarray and the flanking movement that had begun could not be completed. The Theban phalanx proceeded according to plan, holding back the right wing in a staggered manner, while the deep column on the left inevitably encountered and defeated the Spartan right wing. In the clash, 2 Spartan detachments with a total of 1,000 men were almost completely destroyed. King Cleombrotus, his deputies, and 400 Spartiates fell. When the rest of the Spartan army saw that the right wing had been defeated, they left the field to the Thebans. Epaminondas refrained from pursuing the defeated enemy. The brilliant victory of the Thebans deprived Sparta of its aura of invincibility. Epaminondas took advantage of the victory and attacked Sparta in the Peloponnese, weakening it so decisively that it lost its supremacy in Greece. The Battle of Leuctra is the first battle for which the use of the leaning order of battle is documented. The crooked order of battle is still considered a fine art of tactics today. Epaminondas was the first European general to create a focus at the point where he wanted to seek success by consciously weakening himself elsewhere. He is therefore considered the creator of the tactical principle of concentration. Through the organic connection of the cavalry with the hoplites on both wings, Epaminondas is also considered the founder of the tactical principle of combined arms combat in Europe.